There is a version of you that functions, that shows up, performs, maintains relationships, and hits milestones, where from the outside, nothing is obviously wrong. This is exactly what makes things so disorienting. Because on the inside, there is a persistent, low-grade wrongness. A sense that you are slightly beside yourself, performing a life more than actually living one. You might have concluded that the problem is just you, that you're simply wired wrong or broken, but that conclusion is actually the wound talking. Today, we're looking at 6 signs that what you call your personality is actually a set of strategic adaptations you built to survive an environment that couldn't see the real you. Jung understood that the most formative damage isn't always a dramatic trauma. It's the absence of something essential. Specifically, the experience of having your inner reality met by another consciousness and reflected back accurately. When that mirror is distorted by a parent's own needs or anxieties. The self that forms is not the true one. It is the persona, a social mask. You know this as a feeling you carry into every room. The sensation of performing even when no one is watching. The first sign is that you source your sense of self from the outside. Your identity doesn't come from a stable interior or felt preferences, but from reactions, approval, and the subtle feedback of how others respond to the version of you currently on display. If you remove the audience, you feel a quiet, frightening blankness. Because you don't actually know what you want or feel when no one's reaction is at stake. The second sign is a compulsive sense of responsibility for other people's emotional states. This happens when you were raised in a household where the parents' moods were the weather system you had to navigate. You learned to monitor, soothe, and make yourself smaller so the adult could feel bigger. And now, your nervous system treats someone else's upset as your personal emergency. You might call this empathy, but often it's actually fear of the coldness or withdrawal that followed when you were too much as a child. The third sign is that you feel ashamed of what you feel, not just what you do. In Jungian terms, your shadow became a repository for every inconvenient emotion, like anger, sadness, or neediness, that your environment couldn't tolerate. Now, when a vulnerability rises, your first response isn't to manage it, but to judge yourself for having it at all. You apologize for your emotional states as if your inner life is an inconvenience you are inflicting on the world. The fourth sign is the compulsion to repeat painful relationship patterns. Because an emotionally immature parent offered love that was contingent on your performance. That contingency became your template for intimacy. You find yourself drawn to people who are intermittently warm or emotionally unavailable because their approval is uncertain, which feels like home to your nervous system. You mistake the heightened alertness of trying to earn affection for chemistry, while stable, available people feel boring or lacking in urgency. The fifth sign is a finely tuned threat detection system, often mistaken for reading the room. If your caregivers were unpredictable, your nervous system never received the signal that the danger had passed. You've become an expert at detecting micro-expressions or shifts in tone before a person even speaks. But this costs you presence, because you cannot be fully inside an experience when part of you is always monitoring the perimeter, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Leave a comment with the sign that hit closest to home today. Simply naming it starts to close the gap between the mask and the person underneath. If you're ready to go deeper into the architecture of the psyche, the next video is already waiting. The process has already begun. Don't stop here.